Thank you for joining us to the fifth installment of the second annual Day Show, Connected by Craft. I'm really excited today. It's not every day that you have a global creative chairman from one of the largest agencies in our industry address the Adcraft community. So we're really, really excited. I'll save the intros for Mr. Cruz, but I just wanted to welcome everybody. I'm Andrew Robinson. I am the current president of Adcraft. We are Adcraft, as most of you all know. We are the oldest and largest advertising club in the country at 114 years old. So thank you for everyone joining us today. It's people like you and events like this that keep us going. So we're really excited. To all of my friends on the call, it's great to see you. Thank you for sticking with the Day Show for the last 5 Tuesdays. For everyone new joining this call, we've got a good amount of you. We're already at a record number for our Tuesday talks. So I wanted to say hi to the folks from McCann Worldgroup that are tuning in today. We'd love to have you as Adcraft members. So if you like what you see today, and I'm sure you will, please consider signing up and joining us for future events. Speaking of future events, we've got 2 really, really cool upcoming events that we'd like to take you through really quickly. Our first one, you might have heard me talk about it last week. I'm going to do a better job describing it this week. Today is the final day for registration for our Adcrafty virtual DIY party. This event will be held on Wednesday, July 29th. And the reason why we're closing down registration today, because this is a craft workshop that you will be creating custom wood plank signs right in your own home. It's going to be a DIY party kit, including all the necessary materials. It'll be sent directly to your house. So you can check out the available designs, including a cool Detroit skyline, and register for that event on adcraft.org. And more information on that on the Adcraft website as well. And our second one, our registration is now open for our first ever exclusive socially distanced night at the movies. This will be a drive-in movie theater experience on July 9th. So be sure to bring all your family members and enjoy a single or a double feature. There'll be 2 movies being played that night. Event details and tickets can be found on adcraft.org. We have limited space for that. We expect it to continue to fill up pretty quickly. So as soon as you're done listening to Cruz and Rob, jump over there and reserve your spot. Lastly, I'd love to thank everyone who made this Adcraft Day Show possible. You've heard me talk about how amazing Jeff Cruz and Lou Acklin have been. Jeff is the godfather of the Day Show, and I couldn't be more impressed with how it's turned out. But it wouldn't be anything without the rest of the committee. So I wanted to thank Grace Martin, my man Connor McKinney, Luke Strobel, and Anthony Winters, and then all the beautiful creative that you've seen around the Day Show. Would like to thank Jim O'Brien for his help with that. So thank you all for making that possible. We love you guys. Now, without further ado, you didn't come to listen to me talk, so I'm going to turn it over to one of my best buddies and just an all-around great guy, the Chief Creative Officer at MRM, Jeff Cruz, who will be moderating today's chat. Just want to go over, if you didn't already know, a Gold and Grand Effie and a D&I Ally of the Year award-winning creative leader. Jeff has spent over 20 years in this business. He gives all of his time, all of his energy, and all of his passion and efforts to the city of Detroit and to our industry. So he's the perfect man to start today and take us home. So Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you and have some fun here.
All right. Thanks again for the way too kind words. Much appreciated, Andrew. As Andrew said, I am the CCO of MRM in Detroit, which gives me the proud distinction and honor to make me part of the McCann Worldgroup family, which is a collection of remarkable agencies. I use the word proud because it also gives me access and frequent contact with our speaker today, Mr. Rob Reilly, who is not only a great guy, but a passionate creative leader and a leader at large. If you don't know much about McCann Worldgroup, Google it, and you're going to find that under Rob's leadership, it's been a multiple agency of the year, network of the year across all your biggest and most favorite shows, Cannes, Clio's, Webbies this year, Effies for creative effectiveness. It's won all the big ones, and I know Rob is humble in many ways, so he'll definitely attribute that to the remarkable people he's surrounded himself with, as well as his partnerships with our global CEO, Harris Diamond, as well as his strategic partner, Suzanne Powers. But let's be, he is definitely one that pushes us to do great creative. And while we've had a great run at creating great creative as Worldgroup, he is constantly pushing us and imploring to chase, produce, and find ways to put great work that is not just great in the advertising space, but in the, context of culture. And I think one prime example of that, and I'm sure many of you know it, and he'll talk about a bit about it today, is Fearless Girl. So with that, I gave you Rob Reilly, McCann Worldgroup, Creative Global Chairman.
All right. Is the technology working? I hope it is. Nice to see you. I love the D-Town. I love Detroit. And thanks to everybody for having me. Jeff asked me to do this a while back, and he said, can you come to Detroit and make a presentation, do a live presentation? I said, sure. I'm good at that part, but what I'm not good at is making video presentations. And I've never done a Zoom presentation. I've worked a lot of Microsoft Teams, but this is actually my first presentation that I usually do live that I'm doing here with you today over video. So bear with me. There are no videos because videos don't work very well on Zoom. I have a tiny bit of animation here and there, but this is definitely going to be a new thing for me. So you all are part of my experiment into the world of video presentations. And I'm sure like the rest of you, it's not always the easiest to do, but I know I have an audience, and thanks so much for joining. Let's get right to it. I was going to just do an interview with Jeff when we first talked about it. Let's do sort of a fireside chat, but we do have 50 or so minutes. So I thought maybe I'd try to do the presentation I was going to do for you all when I was going to be live, and there's no reason you can't sans the videos. So I'm going to try to share a screen now, and I'm going to put these glasses on, which is a cross between Elvis Costello and a 90-year-old woman. I can't really tell, but I've been told they're cool glasses, so I'm going to roll with them. And please don't put on Twitter that I look crazy, but I'm going to do my best. So let's share the screen. The presentation is called Crafts is Everything and Everything is Crafts. My good friend and one of the heads of our design department at McCann Worldgroup is Abby, and she helped put this presentation together. I would be lost without her, and she did a great job. And of course, my assistant Margaret has also been integral in putting this together. So, when I left CPB, 6 years ago, and I was looking for a home, I ended up at this place called McCann Worldgroup, which is a little slightly different than McCann. McCann is just one part of it. McCann Worldgroup, as Jeff has mentioned, is made up of a collection of companies. It's sort of like a mini holding company within Republic, but one of the reasons I wanted to only join Worldgroup and not just McCann is I was really interested in things like health and experiential and MRM and PR and production. So that's a little bit about me and why I chose to work at McCann Worldgroup, because it's such a unique offering. But one of the things I was always concerned about was joining this company and coming from a place like CPB, which had a pretty good reputation creatively, and I had a little bit of a reputation of being a difficult creative and a hard boss, and I didn't want that to be the reputation I was walking into. So I figured out, like, what's a way I can enter this company and still feel like I'm bringing some level of expertise, but also I wanted to be seen as a nice person too. And I didn't want to be seen as this crazy person from this crazy company called Crispin Porter Bogusky, who was really hard on people and was going to fire everybody. So I said, instead of holding a town hall, what could be the thing I could do? So I call it a crafty entrance. And it was important for me to craft everything. So when I say everything is craft is everything, I even wanted my entrance to be crafted. So the first thing I did is, if anybody knows McCann Worldgroup inside of 622 3rd Avenue in New York City, it is 12 floors, and it is 12 floors of strangers to me. So instead of holding a big town hall where I introduced myself and be this crazy bald man that joined the company, I went around to every floor and I introduced myself to pretty much everyone in the company. So this way, by the time I did a town hall and spoke to everybody within the New York office, let alone globally, people kind of knew me and maybe knew that I was someone that was going to be coming to them versus them coming to me. That was sort of and if anybody who works there is on the line, they know that I often go down to each floor and meet with people versus having people come to my office. It's a small thing, but I think it's important to realize, like someone in my position, I work for the people don't work for me. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. Now, a big part of what the task was at hand was, how do you turn around, and people will call McCann Worldgroup, it was a battleship, and it was a battleship maybe going in the wrong direction. So I put this together. Abby didn't even make this slide. I put this together. This is, I think that's the Titanic, but we needed to do a little bit of craft to turn this around. And the first thing I did was, like, Harris Diamond, who Jeff had mentioned is our fearless leader. He's our CEO. He's amazing. The first thing he said to me in an interview is that I want McCann to be the greatest creative network in the world. I want creativity to permeate everything we do, and I'll give you everything you need to do it. So when your CEO says that to you, you sign the dotted line very quickly. But I realized as I went in, this was going to be a fairly large task in turning this company necessarily around. It was doing fine business-wise, but creatively it didn't have such a great reputation. Now, Harris said, please send out an email and show everybody your vision. And I thought, what a terrible first thing to get from the new global CCO or global creative chairman is a note saying, we need to do better work. Everybody's going to expect that, and basically everybody would just throw that into the virtual garbage. So I thought, let's put together some goals, because a vision is hard for everybody to get behind, but a goal is an easy goal. So the first thing I said was, I'm going to create a goal called 3 for All, and which meant that every office was responsible for having every client every year make 3 magical pieces. I thought it was a pretty attainable goal. But for me, it was like, okay, I don't want to just put that in an email. I want to design it. So I talked to Gary Todd, who is an incredible designer and 20 years in McCann, London, and tragically passed away a few years ago from cancer. And I said, Gary, I need you to bring this statement I have to life and design it. And he designed it in such a beautiful way, we ended up sending this out. And this ended up being a poster in every office of the McCann Worldgroup company. So instead of sending a vision, I thought, well, if we can craft a piece of language and a goal that we can get behind, maybe that's a little fresher, a little easier for a creative company to understand a goal or mission because it's well designed. So I've always had craft in the back of my mind about how do I bring what I want people to do and what I want maybe our goals to be, but do it in a way that doesn't feel like it's just some corporate lackey sending some out through an email. So we started there, and I was like, wow, people really responded to this. It seemed like a really attainable goal, because part of turning around a network, the craft of turning around a network, was you needed to make sure every client was responsible for doing good work. And every person, not just the creative people, the business leaders and the strategy people and the production people, the project managers, were all responsible for bringing this to life. So that seemed to get a lot of traction. So I think, well, maybe I've got something in this designing of some sayings. Instead of just saying things out in the world through an email, how do we keep designing posters? So another tenet I thought was important was that for McCann Worldgroup to be successful, our biggest clients have to do the best work. Now you can say it or you can show it, and you can have this poster all around each office. And this way, everybody understood that we will be successful only when our largest clients do the best work. And I think if you looked in the past 6 years throughout all of Worldgroup, our biggest clients actually have done some of the best work, and I'll get to some of that. And then this is my favorite statement because I don't know how much skill you need this, the skill you need to accomplish this. The outthink part is really important because, if you think about a project or you think about the assignment way before you start doing the work, you won't have to work as hard. But the trick for a great company like the Patriots, who I hate saying is the greatest football team of all time, they outwork people. Part of our business is we do have to outwork people. But the easiest thing, where you certainly don't need any skill, is the caring part. I'll give you a small example. When I first started, we were pitching Mucinex, and anybody knows Mucinex is a lovely product that helps clear mucus from your throat. And I remember sitting in a presentation with a client, and we were talking about the in-store work and talking about the shelf talkers and what goes inside the shopping carts. And I was very passionate about it. And one of the account people after the meeting said, "Man, you really made it seem like you cared about all that stuff." And I said to her, "Of course I care. It's easier to make great work when you actually care about something." So this to me is probably the most important, 3 things you need to do to be a successful global network and company is do these 3 things. But it has to look good. So these 3 posters, if you walk around all the McCann Worldgroup offices, are all around, and they're just simple reminders of sort of the things we need to do to be successful. So that was the first thing I did. And then the next thing I did was, how do we get rid of this logo? And how do we get rid of this sign? This is Juan, who sits at the front desk at 622, and he's a great guy, been there for many, many years. And behind him was this sign. And I remember saying to Harris, if I do anything in the first year, we need to remove this sign. I didn't love the way it looked. I didn't love the craft of it, frankly, even though it was designed by our own companies. I just didn't love it. But I certainly didn't love what it said underneath, transforming brands and growing businesses. I thought it sounded like a consulting firm. I thought it was totally the opposite of inspiration. And certainly it was not going to attract young people to work in our business, which is the most important thing. We need young people. That is the future of our business. And if they walk in thinking they're working for a consulting company and not a creative company, well, maybe we don't get them. So the first thing we did was change the mission from transforming brands and growing businesses to, that's just a close-up, to we help brands play a meaningful role in people's lives. Now, this set of words 6 years ago was important and felt right for what McCann Worldgroup had always done, but felt like a good role for an agency to play with their brands. Think about it 6 years later and how important brands are in people's lives when our governments are obviously failing in providing safety and providing vision all around the world, not just in the US, but US especially. Man, brands are so important in people's lives and being meaningful. So this is all craft, right? And of course, we redid the website. And the website, when future employees or prospects or clients that maybe want to join the McCann Worldgroup family as brand partners, they went to our website. Our website had to be awesome and had to look awesome, had to be crafted. Now, if this was a live presentation, this whole thing would be animated. It would look even cooler, but it is not. So when I talk about we help brands play a meaningful role in people's lives, let's give you some examples. For L'Oreal, give women the confidence to realize their worth. That's been around for 40 years. For Microsoft, empower people and organizations to achieve more. Obviously, some of the work we've done has proven that. And then something like IKEA, that is Eldar from the Visibles campaign, which won a Grand Prix in Cannes this past year, who is an amazing copywriter we hired 3 years ago, not because he was disabled, because he was just awesome. But because of his life experiences, Eldar was able to come up with an idea for the Visibles, which is another example of incredible craft when you watch that case, which I'm going to attach the case studies. I sent them early, so I hope that everybody can see the case studies after. But when you think about the level of craft of an idea like Visibles, but it all was born in this meaningful role, which is how do we make great design accessible for all? That's IKEA's, meaningful role, the one we suggested to them. It makes sense that if we made a diversity hire to hire someone who's great, just happened to be disabled, put him on IKEA, he's going to come up with an idea that maybe changes the world for people. So the last poster, one of the last posters I'll share with you, and again, if we were in a live presentation, this would be animated and the paint would drip down into the screen. But this is sort of my belief, and people misinterpret this. They think I'm talking about the ads we make. The ads, of course, have to be creative. That's the table stakes for any great agency, the ads. But to me, creativity is the only way to survive is much more. It's a philosophy of how I think we should approach everything in life, certainly problems. You know, it's not a Hollywood word to me. It's not a art word, or certainly not an award show word. It's how the world solves really hard problems. And I've talked about this a lot in the past. And now with the filter of craft around it, it really it enlightened me on some new things that I want to talk about. You know, my first example of using creativity to solve hard problems, I'll give you, this is, maybe some of you know, but some of you might not know that I started my career at McCann Erickson Worldwide. Back then it was called Erickson Worldwide in New York. It was at 753rd Avenue. And my name was Robert Reilly, and I was a junior copywriter. I wasn't very good. I somehow got the job through a lot of perseverance. Took a year for me to get this job there. But I wasn't very confident in who I was, and wasn't very confident in my ability. I wasn't a shy person, but anybody who knows, if you're a creative person, you're not confident, you tend to clam up, or you're not very, confident in a meeting. So like everybody else, those meetings where you have to introduce yourself, it's such a horrible experience, right? You go around the conference room table and you got to say, hi, I'm blank, and I work in here. I like cats, and I like dogs, and I like doing this. It's a terrible experience. I don't know, we've got to get rid of that, but it was happening. And I remember sitting in my first meeting, and I was so nervous that I would mumble my name. If you meet anybody who knows me from college or growing up, or my family, they all call me Robert. But I was so nervous that I would mumble my name. It was too many syllables. So, talk about using creativity to survive. I was like, well, I'm never going to survive in this company if I can't get my name out, let alone make great ads. So I went back to my assistant at the time. Everybody had an assistant, even juniors. And I said, I need you to do something. And this was maybe my first use of creativity to survive. And I just changed my name to Rob. It was easier for me to say in a meeting. So I've had this idea of creativity is the only way to survive for probably 25 years now. And it all started here, a simple little thing that forever now I'm known as Rob Reilly. Obviously, it's alliteration that's easy to say, but it definitely changed my trajectory at McCann a long, long time ago. But let's talk about where I see creativity and how valuable it is. It can transform frustration into utility. This is my favorite example of something from Europe. I'm a big soccer fan. I'm a big soccer player. And there's a team in Europe last year, in Germany, I believe, that couldn't score a goal. And the fans were so frustrated, they figured out, like, well, what can we do to help our team score goals? So this is a very famous clip that they ended up making these huge arrows so they can point to the goal for their team to find it. Now, it's easy to laugh at this and make a joke about this, but it's actually a really smart way, creative way of solving a problem. If I'm a player, if I was on the field and we hadn't scored, and my fans that are passionate, that care about me, all made arrows and were pointing at the goal, I probably would run a little harder. I'd try to kick a little more straight. I would try to make the right passes. I would try to do everything to make sure they don't have to bring those arrows. So I use it as an example of creativity can show up in many forms. Creativity can also heal. This is one of my favorite ones. I don't know if anyone out there watching has a child that has a disability. Maybe they have a hearing disability. These hearing aids, they haven't made them that they're really great looking, and they're obviously it's so traumatic for young children to have any kind of thing that makes them feel different. So what did a father do? A father used creativity to help his daughter heal, and got a tattoo in the form of the same form as the hearing aid. Such a beautiful and amazing story of creativity. And you don't have to be a creative person like all of us on the line. You can just have an idea and figure out a way to help your child. And the best part about the world we're living in is that the internet, helps people share these kinds of ideas, and maybe other people can do it. So this has become a bit of a thing. Those of us that are bald or shave their heads, they actually can help their children and make them feel like they are just like everybody else. And such a beautiful story of creativity. And listen, creativity can save lives, and it's been proven. And this is why this took so long to make a surfboard that has the technology in it that is a shark deterrent. So simple and so amazing. And obviously surfing is such a big thing in so many parts of the world, and the dangers of shark attacks are there. So someone finally figured out this is a creative use of technology. So when I use these examples, you know, I'm always excited that like creativity, you know, is the asset we're most our most valuable asset. No, there it is. So, but you know, craft to me elevates our creativity, and we're going to get into why now, and I'll give you an example of something that was done a long time ago. And this is another idea of that creativity is saving lives, but also the craft of this idea, when you get down to it, is really beautiful. So the world's worst infant mortality rate is in Afghanistan. You know, it's a horrible situation, and one of the issues is that, you know, they don't have they don't get a lot of shots. They don't believe in immunizations, and when they do, the schedules and the records are very, very hard to find and hard to keep track of. And you know, so and a lot of the parts of this part of the world in Afghanistan, they don't actually believe in vaccinations. So you've got multiple biases against it. So to counter that bias, you know, we turn to another tradition. This is our office in India worked on this, which is called the immunity charm. Now this is a big award winner, and again, I don't think we do anything at McCann Worldgroup to win awards. It's always the byproduct, never the motivation. But this thing ended up winning a lot of awards because I think it was such a useful, you know, piece of creativity. You know, they took this charm that goes on these children, and when they're born, they get these charms, these charm bracelets, and they repurposed it to be a way to track the vaccine shots you've gotten. So again, when you look at this, it had to look just like the bracelets. It couldn't be this weird medical looking thing. It had to look, the craft of all these things was so important. And trust me, the amount of detail that went into choosing the colors and what they stood for, it really came down to the details in this that made this such an amazing thing. And of course, an idea like this, just like the hearing aid idea and the tattoos, like it's spreading throughout the region now. They're not just doing it in Afghanistan, they're doing it all around the region, and it's saving lives. So when we talk about the difference, if this looked horrible, you wouldn't put it on your child. You know, it had to look like it was part of the culture, and that was so critical to get that right. I'll give you another example that I think that is about craft that probably doesn't get talked about. Franchise, the Xbox Design Lab franchise model. You know, listen, people have made products where you can come up with your own colorways and sell them, whether they're sneakers, and do that. So the idea of creating a way that people can make their own colorway and sell it, I don't think is a new idea. In the end, it was the craft that made this thing win so many awards in the e-commerce Grand Prix. But as you go through it, like this turns out to be like a direct campaign that spawned thousands of direct campaigns. So not only was it a testament to the work that the business leaders did and the strategy people did and the creative people to sell this idea to Xbox, you know, that was the easy part. The hard part was how you make this feel unique. So while we let these people choose their colorways and then broadcast them and try to sell them, we also had to help them by creating materials for them that were spectacular, so they could actually market their things. So when you look at the craft of this stuff, each of these people who created colorways, we designed posters and materials for them. And the beauty in this is the reason I think it's won so many awards is because we didn't just stop with letting people figure out how they can make money off their color design. We actually help them market themselves with beautiful crafted materials. You know, as you go through, we named them, and then of course they all have the signatures, and they're all uniquely named and uniquely designed. So the amount of time and effort and craft that goes into this is the reason why it is so popular. I love this one. And of course, you know, and hopefully the team at Adcraft is going to post all the videos, because I posted all the case studies, and at least I sent it to them because I would love for you to take a look at it, because this is just a couple frames from the case study. And the case study itself is as much as a part of the award winning as anything. It's so well crafted. And this is where we often fall down, and we blame it that we don't have enough money or enough resources to make great cases. But it's, you know, it's kind of incredible. We spend all this money and time on making things, but we don't spend the time marketing it for ourselves. I want to go to, I say, why aren't we telling our clients we're going to spend, you know, $200,000 on this project, and then we want to spend another 15 making the case? and put it in the budget. We need to go to our business leaders and say they need to be put into the budget, because the case itself, obviously this is an incredible idea, but the case is, I think, the reason, besides the craft of the actual materials, is why it won. This is just one part of the case, which is, there's a scene where someone talks about his colorway, says Trump's a great president, you know, he's a great leader, that's why I designed it in red, white, and blue. And then right after it, someone says Trump looks like a Cheeto, and that's why he called this thing the Trump, and it looks like a Cheeto. So just a cool case study, so take a look at it. And again, listen, you know, I don't like to talk about awards like they're the only thing that matters, but until they don't matter, you know, there's something to strive for. So for us to win the first ever e-commerce Grand Prix is a great accomplishment from this team based out of London, but it really is a testament to the craft of this idea, which I don't think you really think about. You just think about people who just made colorways and sold them, but it's actually the materials and the case and all of it behind it that is the reason why. So I wanted to include that. And again, I don't show anything if it hasn't done its job by selling. You know, if it hasn't, forget the awards. If you haven't grown the controller sales by 350% and get all these great kinds of numbers, then it's not worth doing, or certainly it's not worth showing. The only metric that matters is great work and great ideas that are well crafted that actually lead to great business results. So I'm going to stay with Microsoft because it's important, and changing the game is the thing that did very well at award shows. Again, this was not. Microsoft did not come up with a controller to win an award. You know, they found that people, and we found, and they found that people were hacking their controller. You know, people with disabilities were going through great lengths to compete with their friends. So they would hack it. They would come up with all these crazy taped together or wired together systems. And instead of getting angry about it, like some other technology companies would be, they actually did the opposite. They said, what can we do to help these people? So what they did was they designed the adaptive controller. And when you think about the craft that went into this, and this is, you know, we had nothing to do with this, you know, they obviously we had talked about, you know, some of the issues, but like this is all Microsoft, and they've gotten a lot of the credit as they should. But again, another thing that could have looked terrible, right? It's, oh, yes, it's for handicapped people or people with disabilities. Like, it doesn't need to look good. No, that's the opposite. It needs to look even better than maybe the controller does. And they really spent a lot of time on the design and the crafting of all this. It obviously had to work functionally, right? You know, when you look at the people that are using it, you know, it had to work functionally. But it also, there's no reason why something that's so useful and such an important piece of technology for somebody can't be beautiful. You know, but then the hard part came was like, well, how do you tell that story? Like many things that companies are doing, if the story isn't well crafted, then it doesn't matter. So we had the opportunity to be on the Super Bowl, and we actually had done a commercial during the holidays that was a little bit more of a Disney-esque kind of story of this boy Owen. And we actually did the behind the scenes with all these other people that were disabled. And the behind the scenes probably cost $100,000, and the commercial probably cost $500,000, if not more. And the behind the scenes is this thing that really resonated with people. So for the Super Bowl, along with Kathleen Hall, who are our amazing client, we decided, well, what if we just put the behind the scenes on the Super Bowl? And frankly, I thought the craft of it was okay, but more importantly, I didn't think it had enough emotion. So we convinced the client that we would go back and shoot more children and more people with disabilities and more of the star of the show, which is this guy, Owen, who's super cool and super charming. So we went back and shot all this new footage and asked more questions and more stories and interviewed more people because we knew it needed to be crafted. It was going on the Super Bowl. So again, like I always say, like, how do we take craft over the goal line? Don't fumble at the goal line. Like, we can't, just because we've got this thing that is pretty good that people really seem to like, is it Super Bowl worthy? So we went back, and that's the fight you got to fight, and got to find more money. There's never any money. There was no money for this project. But I truly believe the storytelling behind this is the reason why it did so well. And we told the story of not only just the controller, the box it came in. The box was designed so people with disabilities could open it easily and take it out easily. And then we actually crafted Owen's, his sort of he's the star, but he's such a great, inspirational character. We didn't want just to end with him on the Super Bowl. We had him do inspirational sort of instructional videos of how to use the controller. Because the whole point of this isn't that we wanted people with disabilities to be able to play. They wanted to compete with their friends. So he basically did some cheap videos to let people, the other disabled people who got the controller, how to succeed. So it's such a great story, and craft is so interwoven. Again, I don't really like to talk about anything that is not successful in the marketplace and driving the brand love for Microsoft and the business for Microsoft. And again, since we've had the business for 5 years now, and super proud that the Microsoft stock's up and the market cap, whatever all these numbers mean, they mean a lot to me, because it means we get more shots at doing really breakthrough work. When you do breakthrough work that leads to breakthrough results, you get more shots at doing those kinds of things. If it doesn't work, then maybe you can't sell that next thing. It's always about selling the next thing. There's craft to everything, and like, how do you keep making great work for a client is you need to have everything you do be as successful, if not more successful than the last one. So, well, listen, the tech CEOs never give marketing and certainly the advertising agencies credit for their success, except for this one, who is an amazing individual. And he gives his marketing team, and obviously we're part of the marketing team, as one of the reasons or the top drivers of success. So when you have technology CEOs saying that this is the reason we're successful, this is how people like us that are in the creative business, the business of craft, get a seat at the table. Again, the Microsoft story is such a good one, because a brand that no one thought was going to be great, certainly 10 years ago, and it was going to win the Client of the Year at Cannes this year, and that got delayed till next year. It won the Client of the Year at the Clio's last year, and this year, through all the work that all our agencies, MRM, McCann, Momentum in London, New York, San Francisco, all around the world, all this work has led to the Pentapencil, which for all of us is probably the toughest and most important award to win. Is this 5 years of exceptional work between an agency and a brand. The agency and the brand share the award. Each person gets half of it. And it's something I'm very proud of, that we have such great leaders and such great people around the world that make this happen. And kudos to Microsoft. The brand no one thought was cool, well, they end up just making cool work and doing cool things that are meaningful in people's lives. And to me, that's cool. We're not that cool as an agency. We just do cool things. I'm certainly not cool. I look a little bit like crazy, professor in this look now I'm looking at. So I got a special guest star, and Fernando Machado is, we all know him. He's a incredible CMO, probably the gutsiest CMO. And before Burger King, Fernando was a superstar at Unilever and all the Dove sketches work. I mean, this guy is incredible. And about 5 years ago at Cannes, he sought me out and wanted to learn about the Burger King and all the work that Crispin had done. And I sat with him for a few hours, and we became fast friends, and he's fascinated by the story of it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Moldy Whopper. This is not a McCann brand. I'm a big fan of just great work. This is an incredible piece of work from, I think, 3 different agencies, David, Ingo, and I believe Publicis Romania, 3 agencies combined to make this, which is a feat in itself. But, this Moldy Whopper, wow, it has overtaken the world. It's such an incredible idea and so gutsy. But, Fernando talks a lot about the craft of it. And I asked him, man, it would be great if I could videotape you talking about it versus me telling your story. And we videotaped him, but because of the technology, we're only going to have him on audio. So I hope that's okay for everybody. It's right here. Hopefully this is going to work. And here's Fernando Machado talking about the craft behind the Whopper, Moldy Whopper.
When talking about craft, I always remember a quote from Haggerty, which is that a great campaign is 80% the idea and 80% the craft. And I think that he didn't get the math wrong on that one. It's pretty much like that, like I've seen great ideas falling short because of the execution, and I've seen ideas that were just okay becoming amazing thanks to the craft. And from my experience, like every time something looks effortless and beautiful, there was probably like a lot of work behind when it comes to craft. And I think with Moldy Whopper was exactly like that. You know, it was a painful experience. It was painful because mold grows in uncertain ways. So we had to do the shoot a couple of times. We became experts in growing mold, like regulating temperature, humidity, light, because like it was growing differently and we were not getting the results we needed. And every time we didn't get the results we needed, it would not be on day 1 or day 2, it would be on day 20, 25. So we would need to basically like restart from the beginning. And the end results show, like it shows like the amount of obsession, the amount of attention to detail, the amount of passion that went behind making mold beautiful. That is craft.
I mean, we could just listen to Fernando all day long. The guy is so smart. And when I asked him to do this, he jumped at it. You know, he's a big fan of creativity and believes in agencies everywhere. And when I said it was for the Detroit Adcraft, he jumped at it. So he's a big fan of you guys, and hopefully you can see why this guy has made some of the greatest work with partnering with his agencies. And I'm glad he got to do it. And I'll post the video at some point so you can see him talking about it. He's super passionate. But and if you guys have 30 minutes to kill this weekend and want to get a couple margaritas in you and watch a great story, there's an incredible story of craft. You know, Fernando asked me about where the king came from and the king head and the costume and the whole persona. You know, and I was deeply involved in it with a bunch of other amazing people. You know, back in 2004. Seems like it's so long ago, because it is. And I had hair, even in the documentary, I have hair. There's a shot of me with hair, which is pretty frightening. And but it's a really incredible story about craft. So you can find it on Lions Live and McCannLions.com. You just got to register. It's free. But I would encourage you, because it really shows you how far you have to go to make truly memorable things and that are super well crafted. And it's not perfect at all. There's so many mistakes in it, and it's such a great, fun story. So I encourage you to check it out. It's free. So the last thing I want to talk about before we get to some of your questions is what I like to call four feet of rebellious craft. And I've talked about Fearless Girl, and I always vow to not talk about it anymore. It's been a few years now, but you know, when asked, it's such an important part of my career and my life, and I think in a lot of people's lives within McCann Worldgroup and certainly State Street Global Advisors. And I think it's a really critical thing that, you know, in the world for a lot of people. So let's get into it. There's a video that I won't be showing, but certainly, you know, you're all familiar with Fearless Girl. She's 4 feet and she's awesome. And this is her location, and this is in front of the Charging Bull statue down in Wall Street, this corner of Wall Street that everybody knows. And by the way, the Charging Bull is super famous, and people come from around the world. If you've ever been there, there's tourists around it, you know, 24/7. So, you know, putting Fearless Girl there was an important, you know, obviously intentional thing. So, you know, the people who don't get the credit as much as they should, of course, McCann gets a lot of credit, but the people who should get the credit, and we all also is State Street Global Advisors. You know, this is a Boston firm, trillions of dollars they invest in the market, invest in companies, and they realized they were also part of the problem when it came to gender diversity, you know, and gender inequality, and they needed to do something about it. So they did what they could do, which is they created this fund called the She Fund, which is an incredible thing. And they also put a lot of pressure on boards of companies to put, you know, women on their boards, or they weren't going to invest in those companies. So they put their money where their mouth is, and they created this fund called the She Fund, by which you can invest in female-led companies. And they, you know, we didn't find, this wasn't an assignment, you know, as we were looking for 3 for All, and the 3 magical things a year, trust me, it was a little hard to find for State Street Global Advisors. So Eric Silver, North American CCO of McCann, he pressed the team, is there anything out there? And I think one of the creative directors, Dove, said, well, they've got this She Fund, we should do something with this. So he presented lots of ideas to State Street. And one of the ideas was we presented a a female in front of the charging bull? What if we put a female in front of the charging bull? Now, everybody knows the charging bull is a male, but the original idea, and maybe you've heard this before, is we're going to present a female bull to face the charging bull. Now, Lizzie and Tally, the creative team, two amazing women creatives, they came up with this idea. And this is the comp that was shown to the client right here. These three, I took it right from the original deck. So this was shown to the client. Now, to everybody's surprise, except for me, the client did not like this idea. They appreciated the sentiment and why we thought it was good, but we were adamant. And we would keep going back and showing this idea, and Eric Silver would come in my office every so often, and I would say, you know, what's happening with the female bull? And it's like, well, we can't really say. I go, well, we got to stop calling it a female bull. There's no such thing. As everybody knows, there's no such thing as a female bull. There's only a cow. And what marketing company in their right minds would want a female, a cow as the representation of female empowerment? So, you know, it might have been potentially one of the worst ideas ever presented by an agency, and certainly an agency that I was in charge of. But we didn't give up, you know, and we said, well, what if the cow, the female bull is important, but the standoff is even more important. So we went back and we came up with the Fearless Girl. And again, there has to be an amazing client on the other side. As luck would have it, by the time we went back for the 30th time, there was a new CMO who we had worked on previously with Oppenheimer funds. And Stephen saw the power in the idea right away. And he said, I need to figure out a way to navigate this through my company. And there's a craft to selling these ideas. And he found a way to navigate it. And we kept giving him all the information he needed. We did our own like sort of testing around this and gave it to him so he could go, and he was armed with all the information he needed to sell this idea through. And obviously, he won, and we won, and I think the world won, because what this has meant to so many young women and young men, and I think obviously, you know, adult women and hopefully adult men understand like this. This is what needed to happen, and it was needed at a time, again, when Trump was just elected, and there was a lot of tension, and this really released that tension in the world. This was a symbol for female empowerment, and that little girls can do anything they want, and little boys need to respect women and girls and all those things. So it really turned out to be an incredible moment for us as an agency, but and for Stacey, and I think for us as an industry. So super proud of it. Obviously, it's gone on. You know, the most important thing is I always judge ideas of what's the story the press will write about when it lands in culture. And this is an advertisement that's on the cover of Power 19 for Worth magazine, the most powerful men and women in global finance. This is a statue for a finance company. Pretty amazing. Again, if it didn't have incredible results, I wouldn't show it. I don't really care about the can thing. That's a great byproduct, but really the business results are most important. And but one of the things that people don't know is that, you know, she was causing a lot of traffic. The bull and her combined were this incredible traffic jam, and it's pretty dangerous if you go down there. It was sort of like the Wild West, where they had Fearless Girl and the charging bull. So the city said, you guys need to move her, or we're going to have to move her because she's causing too much safety hazards. And we were like, well, where are you going to move her? They're like, well, we're going to put her in a park. And we said, no. We're going to control the narrative. If you don't put her where we want to put her, then she goes to Japan or London or Germany. Everybody wants her. So we proposed as an agency, this is the comp we made. We said, we want her standing in front of the New York Stock Exchange, facing the stock exchange. So when these stockbrokers come out of the building every day, they've got to look her in the face and say, I'm going to do the right thing tomorrow. You know, I'm going to keep doing the right thing. So this is the kind of thing where it's like, you know, the craft and showing it and bringing this comp and making it real and not giving up and playing a little bit of hardball. Like, that's how you sell these kinds of ideas. You know, we've showed them the letters and emails from other, you know, cities and saying, hey, the other cities want her. If you don't, we'll find another way. And if you go down there today, that's where she is. And she's going to be there for permanently. This is not, you know, this started as a 2-week outdoor thing that's turned into a permanent thing in front of the oldest, you know, and most powerful symbol of finance. And to the right of her is a statue of George Washington. So it's pretty mind blowing when you see it. And of course, she's gone on. They've made replicas in places like London, you know. But like the point of the whole thing was like, man, everything was so well crafted, you know, and it could have been a disaster, you know. The name, the pose, the timing, and of course the quality, you know. Listen, we gave, of course, the pose, the name, the everything to the artist, and the artist did a great job replicating what was in our minds and what was on the sketches. But she still had to design it, and she still had to craft it. You know, we all remember this, right? This is Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest soccer players of all time, also one of the best looking men of all time. And this is the statue they made of him. I'm laughing, not knowing if anybody else is laughing, but it's horrible. I don't know how you go from that to that, right? But it did, and that could have been Fearless Girl. But we fought hard to make sure every detail was, and this took so much time and effort to get this perfect right. The line of sight of hers had to be directly in line with the bull, the way she was standing, she was looking up, but it was like important we got that right. The cast iron bronze, it's the same material and the same patina as the charging bull. So we had to get the exact same material. So when they both patinaed, when she patinaed, which she did, she would look just like the bull. The hands clenched on the hips to show strength. This was a pose that was super intentional. We wanted a pose that young girls could mimic. And as you saw in some of the pictures before, the young girls were easily able to mimic and put on social media. There was no media behind this. There was $0 spent. It was all through PR. But we knew if we gave a pose that was easily replicated, it would take off. And then obviously her smile, she had to be confident but not angry. And the chin up stance is a bit defiant. And of course, the 1 foot forward, you know, that mirrors the movement of the charging bull. So these are the details that maybe you don't realize, but they are important, you know, and they did make the difference. And, you know, this is Kristen Visible. She's the artist. We've had some issues with her of who owns it and who owns that. But in the end, you know, she made a great job, and her craft and her level of detail was incredible. And I think the reason why it's so popular and so important. So that's a little bit of the show. I truncated a bit because I wanted to make sure we got to at least some questions. So I know we're probably out of time, Jeff. So let's go fast.
Yeah, you're on a roll. So I've been doing this.
Sorry, man.
No, I've learned. I've been doing this a long time. Learned thing. You got the Global Creative Chairman on a roll. You don't interrupt. But I was also privy to the content, and I didn't know I didn't want you to fire through anything. So we'll go through a quick questions.
Yeah. And I can stay a few more minutes if people need to stay a few more minutes, you know, if that works.
Much
I
appreciated.
want to give everybody, I can push something off. So please,
okay. We'll
ask the questions.
We'll give it a few. So let's go with one. You obviously put the offer out there to the community to pre-submit some questions. And I'm going to start with the one that both you and I had a bit of a chuckle at. And it was, you've been listed as one of the most creative people of the year. Can you give a concrete example of creativity that came from you?
Oh my God, you know, I love this question. It's like, I don't know, you know, I definitely was involved with the Fearless Girl, but you know, I haven't put my name on any piece of work in 10 years. And because anytime my name goes on anything, it means someone else's name doesn't. And there's so many people who are responsible for all the work. My job is to make sure that they're in a position to do great work, support them, fight for their ideas, help craft it together. But, you know, I think the most concrete creative thing I've done is hire great people and nurture great people like yourself to go on and do the things. So I am the least important person in the creative process, but the most important person when it comes to helping them get our people get things done and fight for ideas and fight for money and fight for those things. So I don't know if that's creative. I think it's pretty crafty in how I do it, but I love that question. I think it's a great question. People in my position often get a lot of the credit, but certainly I try to give as much credit to the people who really are the ones behind the great ideas, and all the ideas we showed are that. So yeah.
Right. Well, I'll give you a shout out just because it sparked a question when you were answering, is that I know that there are still times to this day that you still lean in and write. You know, you're a writer and you still like, whether it's scripts or you are leaning in as, you know, our global creative chairman and writing. Is that you're scratching an itch to just be creative? Is that a client need or some mixture of both?
It's always a client need. I've worked on a lot of stuff. There's so many good people, but like, I think when you're in this job, you get to come in at a 30,000 foot view. Sometimes you guys have been so deep in something and someone comes in with a fresh perspective. Sometimes it's easier for me to just say, hey, what if we did this way, write something quick, give some ideas here, but I don't have a need to write a screenplay or write ads. You know, I definitely have a need to help people's ideas come to life. That's the itch I need to scratch every day.
Awesome. One of the other things you talked about is that, you know, with craft is everything and everything craft, that applies to actually presenting and selling work. So can you talk a little bit about your approach to that? And I know you've got some vernacular that goes.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. You know, I think we used to be and I'm a recovering asshole, just so everybody's clear. Like if people who knew me at Crispin, I was hard, and I didn't think I was hard. I thought I was just doing it for everybody, but my partners thought I was, you know, and people thought I was not cool and I was being disrespectful, and that hurt a lot. And I did a lot of coaching. I went to like a whole year of coaching to be a better leader and to be a better listener. And I did that, and it changed my career. I wouldn't have this job if I didn't do that. So if you feel like you're an asshole, go to coaching and change it, because nobody wants to work with assholes anymore. You know, clients don't want to work with assholes. The days of the creative director throwing a chair across the room are gone. You know, clients want to deal with what I call the charming tour, you know, and your agency wants your own people. And it means, and when I mean charm, you need to charm our clients. And I don't mean charm clients and people you work with taking them to dinner or buying them gifts or kissing their ass. I mean, charm them with like intelligence, passion, knowing more about their brand than they do, caring more about it, back to the out, think out, work out, care, like all those things. That's how you charm clients. Then you can show them provocative ideas. It's not the other way around. You know, if you don't have that client trust, if they don't believe you care, and it's not a natural thing that I like to do. I'm not get on the phone with clients and walk them through things and talk them way before the creative process, but I do it because I know it's in service of selling the work in the end and selling the provocative ideas we eventually want to bring them. But those days are gone. We have to be, I call it being the Richard Branson of advertising. Like, people got to like you before they buy your stuff, and they have to believe in you. So I really work hard at that. And so it's talk about craft, you know, there's a craft to it, you know, and it's got to be genuine. It can't be phoning it in. You can't get annoyed. You always got to be positive, even if a client is tough and you've gone 40 rounds with something, or man, they're not treating you like, you can never be, they can't ever look at you with those deer in the headlight look. They can't ever feel that you aren't 100% behind it. It's hard, but we have to do it. There's a skill to that. That's part of the craft of selling is positivity and belief in your ideas, but also that gives clients comfort that you care and that you're not going to let them down.
Yeah. So it was one actually pre-submitted questions, and we got one in the Q&A today. So with everything going on and we're doing all these type of virtual things, how have you adapted or evolved your game so you maintain that charming provocateur or maintaining those relationships?
I don't know. I mean, one, I got, you know, maybe I timed my presentations better, but I got so excited. I really wanted to talk about the things that I thought were relevant. And so I apologize. That's why I'll stay longer. I don't know. I don't know if this is great. I don't know if these video things are great. I would love to have been there and talk and spent time with people and got to know some people, but we're doing our best. Everybody's doing our best. I don't think the best work is coming out of this, but I think we're doing our best per the situation. But we've got to figure it out. Like, this is going to be the way it's going to be for quite some time. And I look at it as the greatest creative challenge ever. The box is tiny, right? Literally we're on boxes and talking about a box being tiny. Production's an issue, but like, I talked to our heads of production. I said, has anyone brought you an idea that you said we couldn't do? No. So I don't think we're actually pushing hard enough yet. I think we need to still figure out ways to great things within this world. But the one thing I'm very conscious about, we talk a lot about, is how to make sure that our young employees and mid-level employees are not left behind. I mean, we clients talk about how well this is going, and it's really the senior people talking to the senior people. And it's the moments, you know, we're in an apprenticeship business.
Yeah.
And if we don't find ways to bring everybody along for this, it's really hard. And even people that are young listening here, it's hard to be the 50th person or 500th person on Zoom and feel like you're learning and feel like you're fit. So really trying to figure out how to do this within this world. It might be senior people like you having the meeting before with a bigger crowd and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then having the meeting after and say, here's what just happened. and here's how we're going to do it. You got to replicate those moments where you're sitting at your desk and you're watching your bosses at the wall talk about something, and you might not even be part of that project, but man, you're getting it. I was a terrible creative, and I was a terrible presenter, and I was terrible at so many things, but I had great people who taught me how to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we've got to figure that out, because to me, the middle and young people of our company are the most important people, and they're being left behind, not because we're doing anything bad, because we're out of time. There's not a technology way to do it. So that's what I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, it's funny because my wife's not in this business, and she remarked about like how are the next generation, like how are we bringing them along. It's one of the, between trying to figure out ways to do great work and how to be great by and do well by our people, those are probably the two biggest things that keep me up at night, I'm sure as well. With the challenges we just talked about, one thing in all the success you've had to date, since you've been at McCann, even you start talking about the craft of our work can get better. We have CLCs and you're even talking about creating a craft task force or in the throes of creating one. So can you talk about that despite it all, you can still see areas to improve?
Well, listen, if you look at, we've had a great run and we've done well, but man, if we just go by what the shows are, we have failed miserably in craft. We have not done well. Either we're not entering it correctly or we're just missing the boat. So it's definitely a missed opportunity, not only in things like Cannes and the One Show, it's just, we're clearly not doing as well as we think we are when it comes to crafting. Our ideas may be amazing, but maybe they're just 80% or 90% and not 100 or 110%, which is what we need to be. So we put together a task force of global creative people out of different divisions of McCann Worldgroup, and we're attacking it head on, and we're treating it like science, treating it like we have processes. I mean, it's incredible to be disruptive or to be super creative. Like, you have to put together a lot of processes and things, and it sounds like it's counterintuitive to how it's done, but it's actually not. You have to be disciplined in being disruptive. You have to be disciplined in being great at craft. And I feel like, even the limited writing I do, like I spend time and like, I got to do it 50 times, I've got to do it over and over. Even if it's an email I'm sending to people, I spend the time to do it. It takes time, and it takes energy and process and a willingness. And yes, it also takes money. It takes money and we get this question all the time, like, well, we don't have enough money to make a case. We don't have the money to invest in it. Like, we've got to convince the business leaders and the people who are, might be in control of the money, that creativity and craft will lead to more revenue. If you're an agency that is making well-crafted breakthrough work, then you can go to your clients and say, we're a little more expensive. And procurement is, man, they're professionals at killing us, right? Yeah. And our people are not, our business leaders, we put a lot of pressure on them to be procurement experts, and our CFOs are a lot of them have an accounting background. These procurement people, their job is to cut you and to say you don't matter, and to say, not all of them, but like a lot of them say that we can get what you're selling down the street from another agency. Well, that's what craft and creativity does. If it's at such a high level, it is like, no, you can't. This level is different than you can get, and it costs more money, or it certainly costs what's fair. So I try to link these things to business results and to money, because in the end, money is what we need a lot of the times to make these ideas that are B+ in today. And Fernando said it, like, he's seen average ideas go to A+ ideas through craft, and A+ ideas go to C through the lack of craft.
Yeah. Great.
It's a business
thanks for this extra time. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
One last one.
Yeah, no worries.
Pre-submitted ones that you that gave you a bit of a smile, just from personal experience.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone who's creatively focused but has not gone to portfolio school?
Well, there's a well-known person who never went to portfolio school and never went to ad school, and taught himself through looking through One Show annuals and working as a assistant in ad agencies and talking to many people, and that's me. So it takes a little longer. This the stakes were a little bit different back then. You didn't need what you need. I think it's very hard to come out of school or be young and like be so well versed in things like social media and the relationship marketing and everything, all the kinds of stuff. Like when we were getting into business, like a print ad, you know, a print campaign, a radio ad, maybe a billboard. It's much different now. There's much more opportunity now for creative people to end up in creative companies. But I don't know. I think you know, you've got to find a way to prove that you can do the job. You know, and that means you start as an intern and start figuring out how to put together a portfolio or wow some people. Amit Farhang, who's the CCO of Momentum for us in North America, and he has worked at CPB. He did Whopper Freakout, a lot of famous work. He started as my intern. He had no book because his brother worked for us and said, my brother wants to be in advertising. Can he get an internship? I said, sure. And he ended up being, within 10 minutes, I'm like, this guy has it. So he found a way to get in and then turned himself into an incredible copywriter. So I think if you've got it, you've got it, but you've got to work hard to like figure out how do you hack the system, you know, like it's been proven certainly by old people like me back in the day. I don't know who's hacked it currently, but I don't know. There's lots of ways. The internet is a great teacher of ways to hack shit.
Yep. Yeah. Detroit, we call that hustle and muscle. And I think
hustle and muscle. Listen, I have so much love for the city of Detroit, and certainly our people who work at MRM and McCann and Commonwealth. I mean, it's a rock star, and you guys are such a big part of the community. And I think the advertising community in general in Detroit is a special one. And that's why I was so bummed not to be there, because I loved coming there and loved spending time. And obviously it's critical. It's the big GM is our biggest account globally. So it is, you know, top priority for me, and it always has been. But you don't get to see me often because you guys know how to do your stuff. You know, I always say when you don't see me, it's because you're doing a good job. I go to where the dumpster fires are, you know, like I go to where the problems are, and that's part of the job. But the downside is I don't get to spend as much time in places like Detroit because everything is going so well, and that's a testament to you and your teams and all the teams of the McCann Worldgroup. And in general, I think the advertising in Detroit is awesome. All the agencies have done so many good. There's such a great spirit, and look forward to seeing what everybody does and coming back to Adcraft and doing more questions and less talking.
Yes, we can make that happen. I appreciate your time, and you know, you got to be careful. You're getting good at this video presentation thing. I'm just saying. I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get. But at least we got the background good. So yeah. We got matching background. So look at us. Craft is everything. Everything is craft. So everyone in the crowd, thank you for participating in today, and hopefully all 5. Just spoiler alert: there's rumblings of potentially another series of Tuesday Talks in the future. We'll see what we can do. But again, Rob, much gratitude for
you got it,
and really sharing some great stories with us today.
All right, peace, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, appreciate it. Bye now.